Good evening, guys. It is Saturday night, pontificating with Pete. Welcome to Revolutionary Change. And obviously, welcome to potentially a lot of new people. We're obviously very pleased to have you all here so far already. Please smash that like button if you haven't already. Please make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. Please make sure you share the stream if you haven't already. So let's get the bad news out of the way. It does look like we are going to put boots on the ground in Iran. We could have assumed that this was coming. And when you think about how much worse things are going to get in this very moment, I want people to understand right off the bat, to understand why would somebody like myself be speaking with Stu Peters? And the fact of the matter is, the system's falling apart. And at some point, either sense is going to be talked into people or it isn't. But I sure as hell am going to try. The future looks very bleak right now. And we have to employ all tools that we've got at our disposal. And I'm going to try to have a reasonable conversation if it is all possible. But I also believe that if we do not figure out a way to recognize the problems that are at the core existence of why things are failing, and if we do not put differences aside, then you can rest assured that Israel will sink us into the seventh circle of hell with them, because that's where they're going. You know, this isn't Gaza. This isn't Palestinians. This is real World War stuff that we're heading towards right now. And Iran, population of almost 90 million, they're not alone. They have China and North Korea and probably Russia backing them up. That's going to be the big story. Will the U.S. soldiers, will they stand or will they stand down? If there is a piece of good news that we can share right off the bat that just happened a little earlier today, let's give it up to Marine Sergeant Brian McGinnis, who was just released from the hospital and from custody.
Took an oath to defend this country from enemies, foreign and domestic, and we're facing domestic enemies right now. That's right. Our leaders are in cahoots with Israel, and they're leading America into unprovoked wars, and that's not right, and we got to stand up against it. The American citizens have to say no to our government's choices, and we don't want war, so that's why we're speaking up. And free Palestine, and Palestine is our strength. The Palestinians are suffering far worse than any of this. Right. So it gives us unending strength. So here we are.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
Let's give a big shout out to this very brave man who clearly put himself in harm's way, and we all saw what happened to him. And he is going to be making his rounds on the circuit. We've been helping out, getting him into contact. I don't think they're related. I could be wrong. But Brian is married to a Palestinian woman, practicing Muslim. Sometimes interfaith does work. But credit where credit is due. And we're hopeful to have him on the show pretty soon. We've already reached out through email. Same is true for a handful of other really solid independent media pieces that are out there. And we're hopeful that his message will get as far and wide as possible. And hopefully there will be some justice for what was done to him at the hands of Senator Sheehy. Good morning, Terry. Thank you for being with us. Now, the one thing that's allowed our channel to grow exponentially has been the support from overseas. You know, we obviously get heavily suppressed here in the States, but overseas, it does seem like a lot of people have been checking out our channel, which is great. And it obviously means a lot. You know, it's funny when you think about some of the other companies, major corporations, take McDonald's, for example. The type of food that is served here in the States is a lot different than the food that's served overseas. And I am sure that the restrictions on social media are a lot different in different places than they are here. So when our channel gets buried, it should not come as any surprise. It's par for the course in what we do. But that is the cross that has to be bared, no pun intended. We are in a situation where speaking truth to power will become infinitely more precarious and even dangerous. If I thought I had a bullseye on my back already, believe me, speaking with Stu Peters, now the bullseye just got a whole lot bigger. But as I said, I can't stand around idly by and not try to do everything in my capacity to use the platform that we have cultivated to try to bring some semblance of sanity to not just this country, but to around the world, so that people understand what's going on. And that much as we, time and again, do everything in our capacity to distinguish the difference between Jews and Zionist Jews, and the same is true for Christians and Christian Zionists, it is incumbent upon us to do the same as we are approaching a world war situation. Now, as Jen has brought up, and I agree, if there is going to be this dissension amongst the ranks in the military, there is no way that they are going to be able to move forward as a united front. And you're talking about a ground war in Iran, and you're having the Zios led by Naftali Bennett on behalf of Netanyahu's saber-rattled Turkey. I mean, I really hope people understand how precarious our situation is, and how not speaking up is to a considerable amount of great detriment. I parse this with the fact that I did decide to speak up on social media the other day, and it obviously got me a lot of flack. And today I got a message on the page directly from somebody who I was working with in commercial real estate, and told me to remove his listing and to never contact him again. Now, this is not a Jewish man. This is a Christian Zionist. I don't need to dig in any deeper. I didn't have to. I didn't know that he was, but I sure as hell know now. And let me tell you why I'm telling you this. And this cost me a lot of money. I'm not going to say how much it was, because it's really not important. What is important is understanding why this is so significant. This is significant for a very important reason. Because of the fact that I decided to speak up publicly and cost myself a considerable chunk of money, let's just say in the tens of thousands of dollars, this is why people don't speak up. They don't speak up because we live in a capitalist system where at any moment they can pull the rug out from under you and take away your livelihood. And then what are you going to do? And that's what I'm left with now. I have to bear that burden that perhaps maybe there are other consequences that are going to come from me speaking up. Maybe there are other people out there who are not going to say anything. They're just not going to work with me. They're going to feign ignorance or keep things quiet, whatever. But I have to be able to lay my head down at night knowing that I did everything I could for humanity, because I can't live with myself if I don't, because somebody's got to try. And that's the risk that I'm willing to take. I cost myself a lot of money by speaking the truth. There's a lot of people out there who would like to speak the truth, but they don't. Gee, thanks, Jen. That's very reassuring. A friend of mine who is very successful, he actually reached out to me with a premonition saying, I hope you understand. This was a few days ago before I got the message today. He said, I hope you understand that this is likely going to cost you business. And I said, yeah, I realize that, and I'm willing to take that risk because I believe in this and I know it's the right thing to do. And he proceeded to tell me how much he admired me and appreciated what I was doing. This is a man who, like me, has been at the bottom. He once lived out of his car. Today, he's a multi-asset owner and he drives a Ferrari. That's how much he changed his life around. But he won't say those things that I'm saying publicly. And I'm sure he has his reasons, but in retrospect, if I know that somebody like him is backing me up, even if you can't say it publicly, that still means more than what most are willing to do. And to that, it means a lot. And on that point, I hope people understand the great financial risks that come with saying what needs to be said. Heck, Susan Sarandon put out, sort of a referendum on everything that's been going on not too long ago. She basically said for the last few years, I mean, listen, Susan's not complaining. How could she? She's worth tens of millions of dollars, but she doesn't get acting roles anymore. If you believe that you can be shut off completely, you can. Brian McGinnis is a hero, and he is going to be without use of his left arm probably for a couple of months. And as a result, he's going to have a hard time making money. Who knows what the fire department is going to do for him? But Lord knows the Zios will be out in full swing trying to get him fired from his fire department. They're already trying to charge him with assaulting a police officer, which is insanity. But thankfully, we live in a day and age where things are caught on camera, and we know what happened. So this is why it is imperative that we continue to formulate these working relationships, however at a distance they may be in some cases. But just know that when you go out this upcoming week, and in some instances, your gas prices will be $5 a gallon, $6 a gallon, $7 a gallon. That's a lot of money. And for most people, they can't afford that type of reach when it comes to being able to commute to work, among other things. And this is just the start. You think about how much more expensive basic goods and services are going to get. Oh, they're going to get worse. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be tough. But hey, Israel has the right to feel safe. One of the primary reasons why Israel is feeling its oats, well, that should come as no surprise. California naturally is the one that's going to get hit hard first. But yes, that is not a surprise. And I want to be very clear. I debated where I was going to open with this tonight, but I want people to understand that the power of Christian Zionism has as much to do, if not on equal footing, when it comes to Jewish Zionism. Now, as cliche as it may be, Jewish Zionism provides the financial infrastructure, and Christian Zionism provides the flock, the cattle, if you will, the ones that are told from a very early age that you will bless Israel, and you will be blessed, etc., etc. There are many grifters out there for many years that either we were aware of or were not aware of. The one that has always been the most stark and interesting to me, because he's just such a psychopath, is Kenneth Copeland. Now, I did mention a week ago that I was going to highlight Tyler Oliveira's expose that he did on Mr. Copeland's church that is based in Dallas-Fort Worth. He is considered the richest pastor out there. Probably quite the competition. Guy's worth $300 million that we know of. I want people to understand just how crazy this man is before you realize just how much of a devout Zionist he is and how influential these televangelists are with providing the sustenance that Jewish Zionism needs in order to maintain its infrastructure on Capitol Hill. Here we go.
A rich Jew backed by a richer Jew.
He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it.
This is Kenneth Copeland, perhaps the scariest and richest pastor in the world.
Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
Now, I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen The Exorcist, and you understand when evil comes out of the eyeballs. There is no question that this man is a very sinister person. And we, Jen and I, are under the under no presumption, we are pretty confident in establishing the precedent that lizard people do walk among us. They are out there. And if there is a lizard person, you're looking at one. You're looking at a person who, if there is a demon, if there is a person actually possessed by evil spirit, this is that person. I can't see that, but whatever. I assume it was something important. This to me is a prime example of, well, of course, he is demonic, but I've known about Kenneth Copeland for many years. He's clearly the most demonic out of all of them. You have him, you have John Hagee, and you have Joel Osteen, the three biggest televangelist pastors in the United States. They're all based in the three biggest cities in Texas. And also, which should probably come as no surprise, Texas is the most populated Christian Zionist state in the United States. And this is a big part of why they are able to get what they get. This is a huge part of it. And this man has evil running through his veins. But there's more to show.
Known for his $300 million net worth, $7 million mansion, and his 3 private jets, with his very own airstrip behind his house, he's managed to become one of the wealthiest pastors America has ever seen. And I'm going to his church to find out why. The first thing I noticed was Kenneth Copeland's store.
Shalom, y'all. Daddy's home. Shabbat shalom. Right next to Jesus carrying the cross. Make no mistake. That is their God, or that is what they want them to believe. Yeah, you know, I often think to myself, what is it that these guys are hiding? You know, what is it that they're so overcompensating for? Because to me, it seems that they're always preaching such a hellfire and brimstone gospel, as if to suggest maybe they're hiding something. We're going to get to the who's hiding something shortly thereafter. Jewish Zionists are laughing at these people. Well, of course they are. They do it all the time. They show, listen, we've seen it in the Epstein files. They're just the goyim that do what they're told, and they follow along. So that way they can, I don't know. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If Jesus were here, or if Jesus was observing, he would be probably addressing the fact that there are these false prophets speaking in his name. Heck, maybe Trump is the Antichrist. And all of these Christian pastors that are blessing him to rain holy hell over Iran, which will inevitably lead to World War III, that they are the false prophets. And perhaps they're all working for one false god, and that is Satan himself. Who knows? But that symbol right there, it is prominent, it is prevalent, and it's the pastor's calling card. And perhaps for the longest time, I didn't know that. But now, once you start to put all of the pieces together, you understand how much of an impact Christian Zionism truly has on this country. Think about Senator Cruz. Think about Senator Corwin. Think about Governor Abbott. Just think of those 3 elected officials in the state of Texas, the statewide elected officials in Texas, and how much they devote their time and effort and fundraising to the Israel cause. It says a lot. Like I said, Texas is the second most populous state in the union, and it, without question, has the most impact when it comes to Christian Zionism. And as we now know, this is something that is going to reverberate for many people. And so shall it be. Because if it does, maybe, just maybe, we can start to chip away at this death trap stranglehold that Christian Zionism has over the South and the heartland.
store, selling everything you could think of and the Bible somewhere. But as the sermon began, I learned that a lot of this church's message was to basically claim blessings from God, and if you had enough faith, your life would be blessed. But only if you've contributed your tithes to help your favorite pastor, Kenneth, maintain his lavish lifestyle.
Crazy person. Now, I decided to dig into the archives and see what I could find as far as what I would perceive to be a false prophet's posturing. And that is something, of course, that he did do. Now, this particular clip is going to probably disturb quite a few people, but pay attention because it's a sleight of hand. No pun intended.
Yes, sir. Now his blood is in my body. Yes, sir. It's in there. The Lord directed me to demonstrate some things. I need that little Ziploc bag. Do we have that?
Now, I want you all to look at this screen. The 40th Southwest Believers Convention. Yeah, please don't put teeth like that up on the screen. The Believers Convention. Yes, you read that right. This is, if there is a wickedness in the world, if there is blasphemy in the world, if there is demonic Satanism in the world, you're looking at it. Yes, there's the spirit cooking. There's all the things in the Epstein files that the Jewish Zionists were doing. But make no mistake, what the Christian Zionists are doing, pretty evil in its own right. Now watch what Mr. Copeland is attempting to do here.
So that the next time you take communion, this will be in your mind's eye. So this is your cup. Yes, sir. This is my cup. So with it in there. Okay.
That's the cutting of the covenant. And then I would do the same.
Jesus said, take this cup. This is my blood of the new covenant.
Okay. Unfortunately, this clip is not running smoothly, so I'm pulling it, and I'm going to re-upload it on my end, and then we'll run it. Colin, please do what I asked. Thank you. Okay. So I want you to look closely at what he's doing here, because as absolutely demonstrably insane as it is as to what he's doing, he's not even being honest about it.
Yes, sir.
Now his blood is in my body.
Yes, sir.
It's in there. Okay.
That's the cutting of the covenant. And then I would do the same.
Jesus said, take this cup. This is my blood of the new covenant.
Now we've mixed our blood.
Now, I don't know about you, but I really don't think he cut his hand. I gotta be honest, guys. I'm looking at his left hand, and I just see if he cut his hand, well, then maybe we're the ones who are all blind, but once we're able to see the blood, then we'll be able to see clearly. But let's rub our blood together. Let's, yeah, cranberry. It's cran. Listen, Jaya, this is cran grape. It's a special flavor. Rub them palms together, baby. Could you imagine? Okay. He's a fast healer. That's what happened. Great answer. Could you imagine Could you possibly imagine doing this? Doing this to a congregation to make them think that they're drinking the blood of God now, and he didn't even cut his hand? Oh, crap, I was using a butter knife. That's what happened.
Which is his and which is mine.
And we could never separate
You
them.
can't separate that.
No.
Now, our blood symbolically has been mixed here. Now, at the communion table,
Yes, sir.
he said, "This is my blood of the new covenant. All of you drink all of it." Judas had to drink that.
Yes, sir.
So, now, and I want you to be this way every time you take communion, and you ought to take it a lot. A lot.
I mean, how do you not see what this is? I don't understand this. I really don't understand this at all. Every time you take communion, I want you to slice your hand open, drip your blood into the grape juice, and then drink it. I mean, I do have sympathy for people that fall for this to an extent. Because like I said, it's beaten down into them from the time that they're young. They are told that this is what it is. This is how it has to be. And as much as you say that this is not real Christianity, I agree, it isn't. But for tens of millions of people in this country, it is. I would like to believe that a lot of people are. I can't look at that mouth, Jen. Do you have to do that to me? Yeah, go F yourself too. Do people really buy this? Or are people, much like what's happening now, afraid to speak up about what's really going on? I would imagine his blood probably is green. Kenneth Copeland is an evil man. He fully knows what he's doing, but it pays way too much and it pays way too well. And I have to say, when he's talking about why he bought Tyler Perry's Gulfstream jet, he made the price so low, I just had to buy it. I mean, how could I not? Normally, those things cost $15 million, but he offered me 12, and I just said, my God, how could I not? That is, all right, you got me. That's definitely who I lost. I want people to understand that as much as we harp on the fact that Jewish Zionism is the primary target because of what they represent in terms of funding Capitol Hill, make no mistake, when it comes to Christian Zionists, these are the people who go out and vote, and they allow charlatans, false prophets, outright demonic, phony scumbags to take advantage of those that live in fear of God and in fear of death. And those who are used as tools, whether for ethnic cleansing, US empire, Western empire, anti-Muslim bigotry, all of it. It's all connected. And Copeland, as much as anybody, is responsible for why we are now in the crosshairs of Zionism and what they've done to our country, and how the United States is going down in flames unless we do something about it. Now, I want to be very clear about why certain people like Tucker Carlson are being attacked, why people are coming after him for things that he has said. Tucker Carlson addresses the heart of these issues that very few others are willing to try and address because they understand the ramifications that come with it. If you break through on the right, then you can break it all. And that's what Tucker is doing.
How exactly did the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, a military that the U.S. taxpayer pays for, that lots of wealthy Americans send money to friends of the IDF, how did all these guys wind up wearing patches suggesting the point of this war was the destruction of one of the holiest places in Islam and the rebuilding of a temple that is totally anathema to Christianity? Like, how did this happen? Well, there are a lot of ways it happened. The main way it happened is because no one in the United States noticed, because it's such a secular place. And as noted, we have eyes but can't see and ears and can't hear. But this has been going on a long time in public through, in part, the efforts of a group called Chabad, C-H-A-B-A-D. And you may know people who give money to Chabad or run to Chabad, super nice people, engaged in all kinds of charitable activities, drug rehab. You know, there's a lot about Chabad that's really good. But what is Chabad exactly? Well, Chabad, you can look it up, is a very old organization, about 250 years old. And it's a branch of Hasidic Judaism. It's an organization that was overseen for many years by a guy called Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who was famously in Brooklyn, considered the Messiah by some of his followers, who was a friend of presidents, or certainly someone presidents visited. He was a very powerful man in the Orthodox and the Hasidic community. And he was the overseer of Chabad, which predated him and outlasted him, but he was its most visible ambassador. And Chabad has been pushing in a pretty subtle way, unless you look carefully, for the reconstruction of the Third Temple.
Now, why is this such a big deal? Because this was actually an issue that was addressed by none other than Bill Maher in his movie Religulous years ago. That's how I was able to become aware of what they call the Beit HaMikdash, I think is how you say it. It's supposed to be the third temple, and it is supposed to be built on a very holy site to the Muslims. And the theory is that if it gets built, that this will bring about Armageddon. And therein lies the danger of deep religiosity in this country. And it isn't just from Jews or Zionist Jews, but more specifically from Christian Zionists, because they believe in this. Christian Zionists believe in the third temple construction leading to the rapture, leading to Jesus coming back to earth in the great holy war that they perceive is happening right now. Hey, I mean, listen, looks like we got a front row seat for it if that's what's coming. But to even touch upon this issue in a way that isn't even offensive, all Tucker is doing here is addressing the fact that this is a very real issue, that there are very real tie-ins to why there is this unholy alliance, if you will, between Jewish Zionists and Christian Zionists, or religious fundamental Jews who aren't necessarily Zionists, but believe in the rapture as well. And this is where Christian Zionism comes into play. The inherent danger of what it represents and what they're going to attempt to do should not be lost on anybody. They want to get them all there, and maybe they all have to be sacrificed. Maybe they're going to try to do the sacrificing themselves. Maybe they're going to summon Jesus and he'll be the one dispersing, hellfire and brimstone, who knows? But that, in so many ways, is freaking the shit out of a lot of people. And for those that have spent generations trying to get things to this point, and they feel like they're close, hell hath no fury if you try to stop them now. You know what it's like in some respects, guys? It's like being on a roller coaster. The ride has already begun. You cannot stop. You're out of the station now. You're already going up the hill. And this whole, well, we can stop it before we get to the top. Like, oh, no, you're not going to stop it now. We're already on our way. And by the time you get to the top and go down that first drop, that's what they've already anticipated. But this is where we are. There are people who believe in this stuff. It's disturbing, sure. But we are where we are. Colin, can I have that clip, please? I want people to realize why this is such a Muslims would never try to destroy the whole world and send almost everyone to hell. Well, that's true. They wouldn't do that. In fact, I have found that the most peaceful people that I've encountered in places of worship are Muslims. At least that's been my personal experience. I don't know about anybody else. I've been to synagogue. I've been to Catholic church. I've been to a few different denominations of Christianity in between. And I've been to mosques. I have to tell you, best experiences for me personally, being at the mosque. That's truly where I have found that people are the least judgmental. Everybody's just there to pray in peace and, be one with God, I guess you would say. But we would be amiss not to address the fact that Tucker was absolutely hammered, as expected, for addressing this. And wouldn't you know it, little Ben Shapiro had something to say about it.
The brain rotted. Okay, so yesterday, President Trump went directly after Tucker Carlson. He said, quote, Tucker has lost his way. I knew that a long time ago, and he's not MAGA. MAGA is saving our country. MAGA is making our country great again. MAGA is America first, and Tucker is none of those things, and Tucker is really not smart enough to understand that.
So for those that are wondering about the elephant in the room, yes, those are actually his eyebrows. They are not fake, or maybe they are, but it's not AI. This wasn't superimposed on his face. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of little Ben's superior eye posterity. Very, very disturbing. Very much yeah. Well, don't forget, guys, he actually has a metal plate that appears to be a yarmulke embedded in his head. It blends in with his hair. Ben's eyebrows are definitely growing by the second, much less the minute. But don't worry, he's got to kvetch a little harder.
All of which is obviously true, except that Tucker is smart. He knows exactly what he's doing. But like so many in the commentary business, the clicks and the giggles have contributed to a terminal case of brain rot. True, actual, undeniable brain rot. After Tucker said just a few days ago that Trump's action in Iran is, quote, absolutely disgusting and evil, Tucker has now declared that Chabad, that is the Jewish organization most famous for their
You got to hock it up before you say it.
telethon and also their warm approach to Jewish outreach. Chabad was responsible for the war in Iran and was also seeking to destroy the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is, I'm sorry, totally insane. I mean, there are no levels to describe how that is. That is so crazy. That is clinically insane. That's like, put that dude in a straitjacket nuts.
And this is the person who claims to be the arbiter of what America, of what MAGA is supposed to be. Hey, listen, you can have MAGA, kid. We are focused on America first and how we're going to save this country, if it's even possible at this point. But with people like you basically being the primary concern for most citizens when it comes to the dismantlement of the Israel-U.S. relationship, the more you speak, the more people will be turned off by whatever the hell it is you're selling. And what Ben is selling more than anything else is Israel now, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. Did you know that there are 15,000 Jewish people in the U.S. Army today? The United States military, excuse me. Do you know how many Jewish people in the United States decided to defect and sign up with the IDF? 23,000. Because they listen to people like him. They are not America first. They are certainly America last. And whether they're Israel first, which I think we all would agree they are, this is a person, probably as much as anybody, who has advocated for every single war, conflict, attack, coup. And the joke's on all of us. I could say the joke's on you to make it rhyme, but you get the idea. This is a man who clearly, well, I wouldn't even call him a man. This is a kid who pretends to be a man, who would never sign up to defend this country Probably wouldn't even defend Israel because he's just such a coward. But he's ready, willing, and able to send people off to die. Gleefully. He says that Trump is a hero for starting war with Iran. And this guy's going to comment about what is and what isn't. He's so damn rich. Why the hell can't he get at least a decent groomer for his face?
Chabad basically exists so that Jews who are interested in Judaism have a place to go to shul, to synagogue. They're the people who stand around at public events. You'll sometimes see them with phylacteries, asking Jews if they wrapped tefillin that day. They drive around with cars labeled mitzvah tanks. Their actual philosophy, by the way, on the rebuilding of the Third Temple is that the Third Temple is rebuilt by acts of loving kindness. I'm not even kidding. That's what they say. And Tucker basically just slandered Chabad. So again, I'm in a state of shock. It is hard to shock me when it comes to the levels to which Tucker Carlson goes, because he has been an ever-degrading show. But slandering Chabad as basically Hamas, well, actually worse than Hamas, since Tucker actually thinks Hamas isn't really a terror group, this is legitimately psychotic stuff. I mean, psychotic break insanity.
Could we also point out, and I'm not going to play the clip, did you guys see the clip of Trump's granddaughter, Kai Trump, making a TikTok video in front of an aircraft carrier? In front of the jets? Why aren't they signing up? You know, in part, I think Ben did this because he wanted people at least paying attention to his video. He just wants the numbers. People are not really going to necessarily care about what he's saying. They just want to see how hideous his face looks right now. His eyebrows are as big as his mustache, which is probably painted on. Oh, yeah, please. Listen, if he went full unibrow, then he might get a good week of, clicks and numbers, which, as Jen has pointed out time and again, he farms them to begin with. They're not real. Maybe his eyebrows are as fake as his YouTube numbers. That's probably part of it. The good thing about what Ben Shapiro is doing, and the prerequisite, I think, has been certainly met. So let's not keep our public waiting. He deserves this more than ever. Yes, your poor nose would probably be shattered, and you can make all kinds of jokes about it. But in the end, I just think Ben is desperate for attention, desperate to remain relevant, but he's just not capable. That's just not within him. So when you think about why we're in such a dangerous position right now, why are we in this place where we have to wonder, are people going to actually speak up and do what is necessary? I've said repeatedly lately that voting blue will not save you. And the reason I know for sure that voting blue will not save us, not that it was going to matter from where I stood. I'm talking about anybody else who's still hanging on to that hope. I want people to listen carefully to what, for the first time in a long time, it's been a while, but here's what somebody who's probably been places that he doesn't want the public to know about, Bill Maher, had to say about starting war with Iran.
So, this week, war. Did you hear about that thing? We bombed Iran and it's going on. Now, have you expected me to say I hate it? I don't.
Of course you don't. But it's not like you would ever stand up and fight for something you believe in, because that's just not your style. But to say that the shit lib's out there and he is the embodiment of the shit lib, of course he's going to say, hey, I think this is a really great idea. I think Iran is terrible. And why is that? Oh, because Bill Maher is a very devout Zionist and a very anti-Muslim bigot. And he's been that way for a long time. The problem is that he still represents a wide swath of that voting demographic that loves the Democratic Party. And that is why voting blue won't save you, because those with money and influence within those high elitist liberal circles, they think just like he does.
Sorry, when he puts boots on the ground, yeah, then I'll hate it. Now I know too many happy Iranian Americans. Sorry.
Oh, you mean the ones in Hasbara? You mean the ones that are gleefully cheering on what Israel's doing? The carpet bombing that's going on all throughout Tehran and all different parts of Iran. In addition, somebody that I know, who I won't mention, is supporting the efforts on the ground in Tehran and says that the IRGC, or get the and again, I'm not here to defend Khomeini and anything that goes on within that particular government. But I always have said, at what cost? At what cost are you supporting this effort? And when you start sending clips from known Hasbara accounts, like the Persian Jewess, you've lost the plot. You've truly lost it. And I do sympathize with people that are under the boot, in many respects, of authoritarian regimes. But as I said before, and I'll say it again, if Israel did not exist, there would have never been an Ayatollah running Iran. So many of these decisions, these are reactions, responses over many years to these problems. And that's why we're here.
And you cannot name one horrible thing that has happened in the Middle East in the last 50 years and not connect it to this fascist theocracy.
Oh, you mean Israel? Is that what you're talking about? Because I would think that if Bill had any brain power left at this point, which clearly he doesn't, let's be very clear. Israel is the reason. And again, I am not here to celebrate Iran. I am not here to celebrate any type of Shia Muslim fundamentalism. But this is what gets pushed upon people when they are not allowed to live their lives according to how they see fit. And when you think about all the different things we've done throughout history, you think about all the CIA coups that have happened around the world, and from what transpired in Iran from 1953 to 1979, it is clear that what our country has always done, in terms of the people who run it anyway, it's our world. You're just living in it. The U.S. hegemon, all of it. But Iran doesn't play our game. And Iran does not have a Rothschild's bank. And to me, that's what it's all about. That's the bottom line. But let Mr. Maher finish out his thoughts.
They're like 6 degrees of they don't eat bacon. So I'm not saying... And it's popular. I mean, Iranians all over the world are doing the Trump dance. Have you seen that? The whole world is jerking off 2 guys at once. Now,
This has got to be just an example of a guy who has really lost his way. But also, it lends me to think, and you consider how Bill Maher used to talk about wars like Iraq, completely different attitude for a country that's a fourth the size of Iran, but he's celebrating this? Yeah, he'll change his tune when boots are on the ground, sure. No, he won't. And be aware of the false flags, because we all know they're lurking around the corner. But here he is, gleefully acting like a moron, because that's all he knows how to do. But I'm telling you, it was like the time... Who was the girl that he had on his... I don't know if it wasn't... Was it Sydney Sweeney? Who was the girl that he had that was like 20 years old? And this guy's like 68. And he was like trying to make moves on her. It was really, he was kind of showing his hand a little too much, no pun intended. But he really was. That's with the camera on. How do you think this guy conducts business? And this guy's been on the party circuit for decades. You think he doesn't have a few skeletons in his closet in terms of shit that he's done? Oh, I have a very good feeling that he probably has.
It's amazing, yeah.
And this is why I don't watch Bill Maher anymore. I don't address him. I haven't for years, or I haven't watched him for years. And when the last time that I have addressed him, which has probably been, I don't know, it's been several months, I only felt that it was necessary because I want people to remember those that actually spoke in favor, not even, maybe we should really think about this. Maybe this isn't the best idea in the world, but really think about who is willing to send your sons and daughters off to die. Let me tell you, we all know Ben Shapiro is ready, willing, and able to send your kids off to die. But so is Bill Maher. And so are a lot of others. And that brings me to why we're having this conversation tonight. I don't care what problems people may have with various guests, because what matters to me is whether or not you're willing to die for a cause. I have often said that there's a reason why Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president. I have said this because despite what some people may think in terms of his perceived imperialism, the one thing about Teddy Roosevelt that truly separated him from most was that he was willing to die for what he believed in. He would never send anybody into harm's way unless he was going to. Now that is the difference between him and pretty much every other commander-in-chief we've ever had. And now we're staring down the barrel of World War III. So with that being said, I reached out to Stu Peters for a number of reasons, but I also believe that when you are willing to have conversations with individuals that perhaps you don't see eye to eye with on all issues, it is imperative that you have them when you line up on issues that truly matter. And World War III, that's an issue above all others that I believe matters in this moment more than any other. Stu Peters, welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate that.
How's everything going on your end, sir?
I mean, we're watching the world blow up. You know, it was probably, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, the first times I uttered the words about who it was that the world was controlled by. And it's just coming true. Everybody can see that now. There's a lot of people that probably had a hard time digesting some of the things that I was saying. And I don't know, I haven't been backstage for very long. So I don't know what it was that you don't agree with me eye to eye on, but I think that you're right that we're seeing people that had differences, especially in a lot of the wedge issues that are intentionally placed into our society by the overlords that actually pull the strings, that, you know, people are willing to put aside because they realize who's putting them there. And I know that this is a show for YouTube, and I know that we're live, and I know that you're probably familiar with a lot of the things that I discuss here. So I'm going to try to keep things, you know, on the up and up as far as YouTube's policies are concerned. They will try to take your video down just for naming me and having me here.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. Let me tell you, I'll give you the quick background, if you will. So Jen Perlman is my podcast partner and what I would call my political wife, because we have accepted the fact that we will never be able to separate from each other. And as a result, you know, she ended up running for Congress against one of the absolute worst Zionists in all of politics, Debbie Wasserman-Schultz. And we were able to take that opportunity in the primary to grow a network that was very committed to what we were trying to do, even though it didn't result in a political win. But at the same time, we started this podcast initially called Generational Change with a J. And what we found is that people are really yearning for that change. They just wasn't sure exactly how we were going to bring it about. And what Jen was willing to do, which was a very hard reality for many people, especially running for office in South Florida. And this to me is the greatest impediment to finally breaking the Israel stranglehold that's on us. They will not allow even an inch of daylight to come in between this idea that there is a difference between Jews and Zionist Jews. They want to make it abundantly clear that it's one or nothing. And as long as they're able to do that, we will never be able to separate from the two. And I do believe that sometimes the language is important, even if it isn't necessarily incorrect. Because the one thing that the Zionists are counting on, the one thing that Ben Shapiro's of the world are counting on, is for us to assume that there is no distinction, there is no difference. And from where I stand, and from my personal experience, there is a difference. It is a very small difference based on what is shown. But I think having the platforms that we have and being able to share the message that we can share, which is if we do not dismantle this relationship with Israel and fast, if you think the United States cannot fall, trust me when I tell you it 1000% can. And there are a million signs out there indicating, and this was before we decided to go saber rattle with Iran. This was already inevitable in terms of de-dollarization, in terms of BRICS. All of these signs are out there that we're heading in this direction. So when someone says, how do we not form these relationships? I say, no, we have to. This is imperative. We have to have these conversations because everyone's audiences need to be aware that this message is going out there. Like you said, could they shut our channel down? Sure, they could. But I'm not going to stop. I'm not doing this because this is what I want my livelihood to be. I'm doing it because I give a shit. And I have a feeling that that's a big reason why you do this as well.
100%. I walked away from millions of dollars when they waved it in my face and said, we're going to take this away from you if you continue to go down this road. It was pretty much the same thing that they tried to do with Charlie Kirk on a smaller scale. I wasn't dealing with $1 billion. I don't know if you heard that or not, but there was $1 billion offer on the table. And we had reported on that after Charlie Kirk was taken out on September 10th at Utah Valley University. We've been deep into that. And we reported that we had pretty credible information that there was $1 billion on the table. Candace identified Pierre as being that person. And then this is one of the first guys that understands or knows, has the knowledge that Charlie Kirk is dead. And then all of a sudden, TPUSA takes $1 billion. Well, the point is, they will try to co-opt everybody, and it seems like everybody has their price. Because I have watched a lot of people flounder, a lot of people waffle, a lot of people do just direct, blatant 180s, go the complete different direction, even though they know what the truth is about the relationship, and that this relationship is, I would compare it to that of a tick to a dog. And there's not a give take. There never has been. And so to your point about differentiating between Zionist Jews and non-Zionist Jews, and I don't know if you were alluding to the things that I've been saying for the last couple of years, but there was a reason, a very tactical approach that I took over the last 2.5 years when I took a look from 30,000 feet at the landscape out here and what's being said and what I identify as being an imminent threat to our country, to our society, to my children, to our future, to my people. When we're talking about digital and virtual, financial, or even physical prison camps, re-education camps, we're watching Florida. Ron DeSantis is actually launching a task force that will have arrest powers that will come out and they will grab you. They'll monitor everything that you say, and then they'll come grab you if you say something that's critical or wrong-think when it comes to this relationship with Israel. And so I saw all that coming, and there are a lot of people, to their credit, that have kind of approached the line over the last couple of years. And they noticeably play coy with their language, and they position themselves in such a way where you can tell that they fully understand the scope of what's happening here, but they want to hold on to their platforms. They want to hold on to their relationships. They want to hold on to their jobs. In many cases, they don't want to be the outcasts of society. So they will kind of approach that line, but they'll never really go there. So there was a very calculated, I guess I would say, approach to the choice of words and language and hyperbole, I guess you could say, in the position that I have taken both here on the show and on X and various other social media platforms, because I think that having a big platform, and obviously this platform became big during COVID. It was like George Floyd, then COVID. And, everybody the people who know who I am, that's how they learned of me. And as I started going down this rabbit hole, or started seeing what was hitting me in the face, I guess you could say, and started talking about it, there was a big swath of that audience that wasn't ready to hear that message. They were not ready to receive that information. And the reason for that, I believe, is because when you start to look at this and you are bare naked honest with yourself, when you start to really look at the origination of all of this and what you've been taught over the years, everywhere that you go, whether it's academia, whether it's public education, starting from kindergarten all the way through, and then, of course, the media, entertainment, Hollywood, and then in the church, everywhere you go, this is kind of a topic of conversation that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And then also, it goes against everything that they have been programmed to believe is real and true. So when you start to peel back the layers of this, and my journey started when I sat down with the survivors of the USS Liberty a few years back. And the reason that journey started wasn't because of necessarily my conversation with them, because although I do see that as a heinous act, and obviously it's a war crime, particularly the double tap strikes, which is an Israeli patented tactic, cutting to pieces the sailors that were on their lifeboats as they were trying to flee. I mean, this was a war crime. And I could see that obviously, I asked these guys, well, have you had your day in court yet? Because what you're telling me and the evidence that you're showing me would suggest that this was not a mistake, as the official narrative says, because you don't mistakenly torpedo the vessel and then mistakenly come back and strafe it with machine gun fire, and then mistakenly come back and napalm the deck, and then mistakenly come back and kill the survivors. That's a war crime. And it wasn't even necessarily that conversation, because even immediately after that, I saw that as an isolated incident. But when I got the response that I did after publishing those interviews, and that came from everywhere, it didn't just come from external sources. It wasn't just the New York Times or the Rolling Stone. It wasn't just the USA Today or the Daily Beast that were hitting me over the head, but it was also people inside of my own organization. And it was people that were around me, people that were kind of colleagues in my circle. And, I'm kind of a loner in the sense that I don't have a clique of friends on X. I don't have a group of people that I belong to. You see a lot of that. You see a lot of these factions and cliques, and different people that claim to have movements. And that's great, because I think that we do need to work together. But I've just kind of always just been, hey, this is what my position is, and I'm going to say this, and whoever wants to come up alongside of me, great. But I started to get a whole lot of pushback. And then it started to become sponsors and advertisers, and they started threatening me with money. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I'm just telling a story. I'm letting these people tell their story. They've never had their day in court. And, since the 1960s, these people have been cast as liars. They have been called drunks, drug abusing, crazy people. It's like, no, these people went through what they went through. And so that's really what started the journey. And so the language, especially after October 7th, I would say became increasingly hyperbolic, in a way, shocking maybe, very in your face, very direct. And I did that by making a cognitive decision. And there was an evening, and I remember I was at home, and I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, and I can notice that everybody that's talking about this is being very careful, there has to be somebody who just puts their balls on the table. There has to be somebody who whips it all out and says, hey, you know what? This is what's happening here. We're going all the way. And what happened, if you notice, when you look back, you can see that there was a huge shift in people who were playing with their language to then becoming more direct. And then people who wouldn't even touch this third rail all of a sudden were. And then it went from being just acceptable to being like cool. And then it went from being cool to actually being trendy. And then you saw the entire world talking about this. And we had the international incident at Dave Portnoy's bar with the sign that was held up. And no matter where you go on social media, whether it's Instagram or X or even on Truth Social, if you get into the reply sections and you start looking at what people, real Americans, like real people, are saying to these Zionists, the things that the replies that they're leaving for these people who are promoting this relationship and pretending like that they don't know what's happening here. Like the whole world has their finger on the pulse. Everybody can see what's going on here. And so people pretending like Piers Morgan or Alex Jones, tiptoeing around this, pretending like this isn't happening is really annoying, and it's very childish. Our country is literally hanging in the balance here. The future for our children is hanging in the balance. This is a dire situation, and we are running out of time, and we are dealing with a people who have demonstrated over and over again, and I would say since 1913, but I think that it was before that. I know that it was before that because I know how many times, how many different countries have taken action to try to rectify or somehow find remedy or solution to this problem. It's a problem. And so, I mean, this is a people who right now are showing the entire world what they're capable of. And the nerve-wracking or the unnerving part of all of this, and I'm not going to say that it's scary. I don't serve a God of fear. And I hope that people aren't scared. Like, just don't, nervousness gives you an edge, I guess, but don't be scared. But this is a dire situation and it's imminent. And it's people like Pete Hegseth, the head of the Department of War, was at the Pentagon, at the podium, and said to Israel, to our greatest ally, Israel, your mission is being completed here flawlessly. Your mission is being carried out flawlessly. The Secretary of Defense, the Department of War in the United States, is openly saying, we recognize that this is Israel's mission and we are carrying it out using deadly force. I don't know if you've seen Tehran right now, but I'm looking at X right now in real time. There is oil in the streets. It's going down into the sewers. It has been lit on fire. The entire capital city, 9 million people, that's a population greater than the size of New York, is on fire below the pavement, below the streets, and on the streets. Literally the pavement is on fire. This is not liberating Iranians.
No.
This is not a liberation mission. This is a mission of terror.
Yeah. And this is only going to get worse. And I do want to point out, Stu, I don't know if there's anything you could do on your end, but it is glitching. Your audio is fantastic, but in terms of the streaming, it is coming through glitchy. I don't know if there's anything that you can do, but I just wanted to keep you aware of that. It isn't causing any issues on my end, but just wanted to let you know. What I 1000% agree with here is that we unfortunately as Americans, too many Americans are way too comfortable, and being comfortable is a privilege. It is not a right. And there are way too many Americans who think that being comfortable is a right. We need to do everything we can to kind of put all the pieces together so people can see it. And the one piece that I am 1000% convinced of now, and probably always was from the very beginning, is that Charlie Kirk was assassinated on behalf of, if not outright by, Israel. And what was the reason? There was always this question.
Can you believe that people actually deny that?
I think a lot of people deny things that they just don't want to face. I think that there is a denial listen, I put out a post on social media the other day that has cost me a nice chunk of money. Why? Because somebody that I was working with in commercial real estate decided to sever the relationship because he doesn't like the fact that I don't support Israel. Okay, well, you know what? That's the price you pay sometimes. And that's a very small price to pay compared to somebody like Charlie Kirk, who, despite my disagreements with him on a number of political issues, also agree with him on others. I would say this: if you were ever wondering what was the primary driver as to why he needed to be removed, if you ask me, this clip, which was done shortly before he was removed, this is the reason.
We put them in power. We displaced the Shah. We displaced the democratically elected leader Mossadegh and put in the Shah, which then, of course, led to the Ayatollahs of Iran. And then finally, is a nuclear weapon against Iran a threat to America? Probably could be. It's a threat to Israel, but is it a threat to America? I mean, India has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So is it worth a potential another war with Iran? And the people that are, let's just say, advocates for preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon by all means necessary, they're the same architects that were perfectly fine with the Iraq War, the same designers of the Iraq War. The primary way Iran can hurt this country is by sucking us into another Middle East quagmire, and they know it. And Iran would have the potential to be the worst Middle East quagmire of all time. Iran has 90 million people. That's more than 3 times as big as Iraq was when we invaded 22 years ago.
I want to pause it there because I'm sure, like me, you have either people that you know personally that either fought in the Iraq War, or you even know people that died.
Absolutely.
And I know both. And if they think they have any clue what they're getting themselves into, this will be Iraq times 10.
This will be worse than Normandy, worse than the beach scenes. This will be worse than Vietnam. I don't know if you've been over this on your show or not, but Iran, to try to get in there, boots on the ground, first of all, you're not going by water. Iran has the waterways locked down. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. You're sitting ducks out there.
How about the mountains?
To come in, yeah, the mountains. If you try to airdrop in there, do you remember how we fared in Afghanistan in the mountains, going in and out of caves, trying to find Osama bin Laden? Heavy air quotes here. Our people were wasted. I mean, we lost so many thousands of lives just by trudging through the mountains looking for the boogeyman. Whether or not we actually were or not looking for this guy, I don't know, but that's what the troops were told. And then you have the desert of Iran. Well, we know that human life and weapons and equipment and machinery don't fare very well for extended periods of time under those desert-like conditions. And so, I mean, I remember the Iraq War. My family members were sending troops that we know condoms, and it wasn't because they were having sex. It was to put them over the barrels of their firearms to keep the sand from going in there, because so many misfires were happening on the battlefield that these, Marines and that these soldiers were being killed because their weapons wouldn't fire. But the enemy already knew that because this is their homeland. They deal with this every day. Well, the same thing in Iran. And then, of course, you have the urban areas. These Iranians don't want to be liberated. They don't want anything that the American war empire has to offer. They don't want anything that the Israeli, American, what appears to be a mass murder machine and an operation of sheer terror. They don't want anything that we have to offer. What did we do in Afghanistan for 20 years? We looked the other way while warlords had their way with little boys and taught the importance of transgenderism to Pashtun tribesmen and then just left, leaving billions of dollars in equipment behind. And mind you, the people that we were supposed to be fighting, our arch enemy, are now siding with Israel against Iran.
What do people think is going on in Ukraine right now? It's like, if you can't put 2 and 2 together, it's incredible. I mean, the other thing that I think a lot of people forget about Ukraine, and one of the reasons why this is still going on, where does a substantial portion of the ethnic background of the Israelis actually come from? They come from Poland and they come from Ukraine. That is, and Russia. This is where they come from. They're not native to the land. And so when you think about how all of these, our foreign policy is so interconnected. I mean, listen, Israel is the eye of the hurricane, but it is incredible how many different components all manage to fit together like a puzzle, if you really look at it objectively, where you realize that all of the intentions for global domination have so much to do with all of this. And the second somebody at the level that Charlie was at gets in the way of it, oh, they'll kill people. What are you, crazy?
Of course, because he was talking to military-aged young men. At TPUSA events, they would leave the event, walk into, in many cases, just right in the lobby or the foyer area, and there would be the Marine Corps recruiting table and the Navy recruiting table, and they would sign up to go.
I was at an event in Tampa, and that's exactly what was. I mean, I just happened to be there for business, and I just was like, you know what? I'm here. He's having the event. I'm going to check it out.
Doing something that nobody else out here is doing with a platform, and that is because of the way that he was captured at such a young age. I've said this before. I know a lot of people have probably heard this, but I think it's really critically important actually to understand that Charlie Kirk, in my opinion, was living a real-life Truman Show because he was captured when he was very young.
Jen says the exact same thing.
All of these people were put into his life, including his best friend, which was Don Jr., and Mikey McCoy. Mikey McCoy, by the way, one of the people who dragged him to the Hamptons to sit there in that struggle session with Bill Ackman and be pressured. And when he wouldn't give way to the pressure, Benjamin Netanyahu, the sitting prime minister of a foreign country, phones in and offers $150 million, to which he said no. They knew that they had lost him. But up to and including his wife. And so with this, BFF relationship that he had with Don Jr., they were so close, in fact, that when Don Jr. went to, I think it was Iceland, to go fishing, He could bring one person with him. He brought Charlie Kirk. That put him, Don Jr. was the conduit to all of the Jewish billionaire donors that Donald Trump openly talks about his dad doing business with, prior to Donald Trump even getting into the real estate business. And he, jokes around about how his dad, really preferred $3 per square foot properties in Brooklyn versus the $1,000 per square foot properties in Manhattan. But then Trump's like, well, we had a lot of fun in Manhattan, though. Over the years, we had a lot of fun. It was great.
Well, listen, we made a lot of money. We did a really great job. And
we did a great thing, and it was huge. It was beautiful. And so, he talked about while he was saying all of those things, he said, my father told me the most powerful lobby in the entire world is the Jewish lobby. And then Trump went on to say that, and now sadly it's not, and it needs to be again. And unfortunately, so much of our Congress has become anti-Semitic. So when you say that this is, a quest for world domination, it's not about the United States. It is about a group of people who realize that they have a headquarters where they can house all of these munitions for war, where they can print money, where they can control various institutions throughout the West, whether it's academia, music, Hollywood, in governments throughout the West, in all of the unelected bureaucracies, and then in all of these NGOs. And then, of course, you have conservative think tanks like the Heritage Foundation, who put out this 34-page Project Esther. I don't know if you have read that. Have you read Project Esther?
I haven't. I've heard of it. I know a little bit about it.
It's on my desk because it is absolutely, for your audience, guys, I'm telling you, this is probably some of the most important reading that you could do right now. 34 pages. This is the blueprint for everything that you are seeing here in America right now as it pertains to digital enslavement or imprisonment, virtual, financial, the task force in Florida. Believe me, that's not going to be just in Florida. That is going to be federally pushed and adopted by all 50 states in this union. This is what they mean when they say 50 states, one Israel. They mean that all 50 states will be controlled by one foreign nation. And when you have the Department of War head, the Secretary of Defense, standing at the Pentagon and saying, this is Israel's mission, and we are carrying it out flawlessly, you have to believe them when they say this. This was always a war for Israel. The boots on the ground are for Israel. Iraq was for Israel. Libya was for Israel. Syria was for Israel. Muammar Gaddafi, Bashar al-Assad, Saddam Hussein, the BRICS nations that we have been saber rattling with, Venezuela, where Trump apparently, I guess, is the interim president. And Delcy Rodriguez is just like, and, the Paul Singers who, the background there is Paul Singer acquired Citgo, which is the American arm of the Venezuelan oil industry. Yeah. And he did it in a Delaware court presided over by an AIPAC judge. So as a vulture capitalist, he forced this stress, at gunpoint sale of Citgo. Well, in order for him to realize hundreds of millions of dollars in profits, he has to control the flow of that oil. And he can't do that if the Venezuelans are a sovereign nation, that operates with a nationalist type of point of view in the best interest of their people, in the best interest of their country. I know that sounds like a weird idea in 2026 in America. But they had to go in there and take out Nicolas Maduro because Nicolas Maduro wanted to nationalize his oil. And why wouldn't you? So they can't have that. Saddam Hussein wanted his own, form of monetary exchange. That's why they took him out. That's why they have been agitating with China and Iran and Venezuela and Russia, these BRICS nations. And Venezuela wasn't officially and isn't officially a BRICS membership nation, but they've been up for a vote twice. Neighboring Spain, which we know who they're sold out to, they vetoed it both times. But Charlie Kirk, you're absolutely right. And when he started to get to a point where he was openly opining on the air, not only just on his show, but on other people's show with Candace Owens, with Megyn Kelly, with Ben Shapiro. And he was saying, this is a problem that has been created by secular Jews, and now it's coming for Jews. And they're like, what happened?
Exactly. Because again, and let's finish out what Charlie said, but you bring up a really good point. We'll get to that after we finish with Charlie.
It's larger than both Afghanistan and Iraq combined, both in population and in area. Iraq was at least mostly a flat country. It's a bunch of cities along a couple rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Iran isn't like that. It's almost all mountains. Iran has spent decades preparing specifically for war with the United States. Their military has lots of weapons designed for fighting a much stronger adversary. They have a lot of drones, a lot of speedboats, a lot of cheap, expendable weapons. They're far more formidable than Iraq or the Taliban were. And I seriously want your thoughts. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. Would you say it's a good idea to use military force to strike potential Iranian nuclear targets? My whole life, I've been told that Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a nuclear bomb. And yet here in 2025, they do not have a nuclear bomb. So why should we trust the American intelligence without verifying it? Now, the other side of the argument is, Iran is this big threat. Same people that told us that Iraq was a big threat, the same people that told us the Taliban was a big threat. I'll be honest, fine. I mean, I don't like Iran, but the evidence shows that every single one of these people, the last couple of decades, that is pushing for a conflict with Iran has not just failed miserably, has been one of the greatest catastrophes in American foreign policy ever. Thousands of lives needlessly lost from Americans, millions of people displaced, trillions of dollars spent. And let's be honest, at this particular moment, we cannot afford this war. We are economically vulnerable. There is massive de-dollarization happening. We're trying a difficult manufacturing pivot with tariffs. We've seen the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. We blew our military reserves in Ukraine. And now is the time that all of a sudden we want to try to get involved in another endless conflict. Let me be clear. It will not end with just military strikes. If you strike Iran on the interior, you will have a war. That is an act of war. And if that's what you want, that's fine. Make your case.
What do you mean it's an act of war? It's not just a special military operation?
No, we're totally just going to go in and rattle them a little bit, and then they'll totally give up.
These are a people that will fight to the death, for the children that we just blew up, in a double tap strike. Whose tactic is that? And that has been confirmed, by the way. There have been many reports now that have confirmed that that was not an Iranian misfire. And that's what Donald Trump said on Air Force One today, that was an Iranian misfire. They're not very good with their, with their munitions. They're not very accurate with their munitions. Well, we are carpet bombing Tehran. We're carpet bombing a heavily populated civilian area. These are the same tactics that were used in Gaza. Iran is the new Gaza, and they won't stop until it looks like that. They will burn the whole world down. And you mentioned the Euphrates. Well, Charlie Kirk did. The Nile to the Euphrates. This is not a conspiracy theory. They wear the patch on their arm. So for everybody who says Greater Israel is a conspiracy theory, it's absolutely not. That's why we're doing this. And that's why BlackRock sits on top of the mineral deposits and all of the, precious metals in Ukraine. That's why they control the Panama Canal. We are literally giving everything, our life, our blood, our treasure, our finances, all of our assets, all of our intelligence. We're giving it all to these people that like to call themselves Israelis, or whoever it is that's inside of the borders of Israel, which I see as just the front lines of the military-industrial complex. That's all it is. It is a land swath that was purchased for this purpose right here, which is to wage these forever wars all over the place. And Charlie Kirk was exactly right. The forever war lobby in 2015, Donald Trump, or maybe 16, Donald Trump said of Lindsey Graham, he would be in the Middle East. Maybe it was even 2019. Lindsey Graham would be in the Middle East for the next 1,000 years if he could. I want to get out of the Middle East. Well, his paymasters say, excuse me, Donnie, you're not doing that. His paymasters, he's not calling the shots here. This is AIPAC's $250 million man. And in every other way that somebody could be compromised, in every other way that you could have somebody by the balls, they do. These are the same people who hold all of the notes on every single one of Trump's properties and real estate investments. If they were to just increase, his interest rate by a quarter basis point, they would bankrupt him.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways that this guy's compromised, and you don't even have to touch the Epstein files where he's named 37,000 times and then says that he's exonerated by them. I've read them. I see what's in there. Of course, I haven't read the 3.5 million, but there's still 6 million pages that we're never going to see, and we've been promised that we're never going to see them. And I said that this would be the linchpin, that this would be the thing that would blow up the entire world, that they would set the whole world on fire before they will let us see this. And you know what? Charlie Kirk, we have text messages here, and I don't think that they're anywhere else, but we have an insider at Turning Point who sent us some text messages that they were able to get a hold of. And these messages were in a group chat, and they were from Tyler Boyer to other top rankers at Turning Point USA. And just leading up to not long before Charlie Kirk was murdered, Tyler Boyer was showing quote unquote concern. He said, I was concerned that Charlie Kirk is about to go quote ballistic on Trump over Epstein and wars. Charlie Kirk went and talked to Donald Trump about this war in Iran and apparently was shouted down and dismissed. I guess Tucker Carlson tried to do the same thing, obviously the same result. And now we're seeing that Lindsey Graham actually went to Israel, which, by the way, he's been there more times than he's been to his own home district in South Carolina. He went back to Israel and sat down with Benjamin Netanyahu and with Israeli intelligence to instruct them on how to basically psyop Trump into striking Iran. So a sitting U.S. senator is working in concert directly, not like through back channels, directly sitting down physically in the same space with a foreign nation's leaders and a foreign nation's intel apparatus and telling them how to pull psyops on the president of the United States to effect a regime change war and begin another forever war in the Middle East that doesn't just include Iran, but now all of the Gulf states who we have completely betrayed and just left them totally vulnerable as we took all of our air defense, all of our missile defense away from them and brought it to protect Israel. And, you had Saudi Arabia's leadership saying, well, I can't believe America did this. Well, you should have known better. And I hope the rest of the world sees now that when members of the United States government point to Iran and say, this is the axis of evil, Iran and China and Russia, the BRICS nations, which of course, first and foremost is an economic alliance, but I think that we would be naive to not, recognize that there's a serious military component to this, of course. He looked right at them and said, you know what, we're coming. We're coming because Israel said so. How many different times have they said that we went to Iran because Israel was going to strike or because we needed to protect Israel? This has always been Israel's war. And Fox News today was saying that we could declare victory. We can declare victory over Iran, and that what this has also done is exposed our fake allies in England. Like, what are these people talking about? And then you have boomers like my dad who will say, let's go put a boot in their ass. That's the American way. They will cheer on these wars because they are selfish, because they are not sending their own kids. Barron is of legal fighting age. Why isn't Barron Trump going to Iran?
Heck, why isn't Kai going to Iran? She wants to make TikTok videos in front of aircraft carriers. Why the hell isn't she conscripted to go out there and fight and put her life on the line?
I think they're going to reinstitute the draft, and I think that it's really going to hit the fan here when they try to do that. I don't know where they're going to get all this blood from, because I happen to think that the Zoomers aren't buying this.
No, I don't think so either. And I think
I don't think that there's any way that they're going to be able to, get willing bodies, at least in a sustainable number, that will be able to do anything effective in Iran. And we all know that if you really want regime change, you can't do it from the air. Now, there's unconfirmed reports that 100,000 ground troops are on their way.
Oh, I'm sure
they've been able to confirm that, but I think it would take probably 500,000 at minimum, 500,000 to do this. We would lose a whole lot of them, and I don't know why we're doing it. Can anybody tell us why? Why are we there? What are we doing?
I'll tell you one of the reasons why this is happening, and I think we both know that there is really something to be said for how much, as we alluded to a little while ago, you and I both have suffered economically because we chose to be principled. Now, not everybody is willing to do that. And in fact, a lot of people are not willing to do that. But one person who I think sits in a very safe position, as far as I can see, is somebody like Candace, who can put out a statement like this: do not join or remain in the United States military. Trump has betrayed America and expects you to die for Israel. There is no honor in being led by dishonorable men to your death.
Yeah.
I also want to allude to the fact that she put out a message the other day with somebody with a platform as large as hers finally saying that, yeah, Netanyahu very likely had as much of a hand in 9/11 as anybody. When you look at all of the cards on the table from a number of different, seminal moments in our lives that have happened recently, with Charlie's assassination, and you brought up Tyler Boyer, who was the CFO and was fired a week before the assassination and then immediately is rehired after Charlie's killed. Yeah, there's no smoke there. There's nothing to look at. Just like there's nothing to look at when it comes to Larry Silverstein or Howard Lutnick. No smoke there, nothing to look at.
Larry Silverstein buys asbestos-riddled towers in New York, and then they come down, and he's on video saying, pull it. He's on video saying we made the decision to just pull it.
Weeks before.
Paul Singer, the same exact thing. Ronald Lauder, the same exact thing with the Greenlandic Water Company that he acquired. So if you want to know why we're talking about Greenland, look no further than Ronald Lauder, the Jewish billionaire, you know, who I believe he actually funded the Trump dossier, the Steele dossier.
Yeah, well,
he's the president of the World Jewish Congress, and he acquired this Greenlandic. He's a vulture capitalist, just like Paul Singer. And what I'm looking at here is the tech native America that will be ruled from Israel. That's what this is, where, you know, whites and, you know, thoroughbred original stock Americans become absolutely the minority. I don't even know if we'll speak English anymore. It is an economic zone that has been used up. The host has no more lifeblood in it. There's no reason to stay here anymore. So we're going to flee here. And this is the safe haven for people who like to do what we do on these tapes that, you know, Epstein has and that Israel's have, that they're holding in bunkers, just waiting for the mutual self-destruction that has been agreed upon here.
I couldn't agree more. And the thing that I also find very, I wouldn't even say interesting, it's kind of predictable at this point. But, you know, when Candace comes out and makes her statement, and we all know that the two most influential voices in conservative politics are Candace and Tucker. And when a statement is made and they have to kind of rein it in, well, the Hasbro Brigade, and we're talking about all of them. I mean, you could be talking about Gunther Riegelman, you could be talking about Eric Doherty, you could be talking about Nick Sorter, and I could go on and on down the list. And then, of course, the people who don't even have the cojones to show their faces or use their real
Jack
names.
Posobiec, Alex Jones, you know, the Binder Gate crew, everybody that you saw on the, you know, on the front lawn of the White House holding their Epstein binders.
Honest to God, if you get this wrong, like if you are not right on this issue, it's not even a question of I wouldn't trust you. It's you need to be looked into.
Yeah.
And what are you doing?
I feel the same way about the Charlie Kirk deal. I mean, it very obviously was not Tyler Robinson with a 30-06. I mean, everybody.
And yet you've got Shapiro out there saying it every fucking day, every time he's live, same thing.
We all know that the person who shot Charlie Kirk is Tyler Robinson. And why are we still talking about it?
He's not the only one. I mean, you have people like Nick Fuentes saying that.
Yeah.
They got the right guy. He was on with, you know, he was doing his tour with all these, you know, big name platforms or whatever. And I don't remember who it was that asked him straight up, do you think Tyler Robinson got Charlie Kirk? And he says, yeah, I think they got the right guy. Or, do you think Israel did it? And he's like, no, I think they got the right guy. How anybody can pretend that Tyler Robinson was the shooter, this lone wolf. And to your military point, or to Candace's military point here, do you know that military command staff is telling their soldiers, telling their sailors, telling their Marines, telling their airmen that they are on a God-ordained mission to usher in Armageddon, and that Trump has been divinely chosen by God to lead this crusade? So these people are fanatical. These people are psychopaths. And they are telling their soldiers, they're telling enlisted military men that that's what they're doing. And now also I have heard, and this is from a very reliable source, who has first-person dealings with this situation, where his cousin or his nephews are both in the military. One of them was told that they were going to training, and they are now in some sort of a pool, some sort of a, I don't know, I guess temporary staging area, or I guess I would call it a holding facility, to be deployed to Iran. So they're tricking service members into coming in for training and then sending them to Iran to go die for Israel. This is the level of the people that we're dealing with here. And when Pete Hegseth sat down on 60 Minutes, I'm sure that you've seen or maybe even aired that clip, where he said the only people who should be concerned right now are Iranians who want to live.
Yeah,
Why don't you believe them when they tell you this? And you're right. If you're not right on this issue, if you're not right on Charlie Kirk, and these people are throwing shade at Tucker. Well, he's CIA. Well, he's controlled opposition, or he's funded by the Qataris, or he's funded by Israel. This is the guy that didn't have to go sit down with the ambassador. He didn't have to go sit down with Mike Huckabee and completely destroy him, totally wreck him. Huckabee said, I can't compute what you're saying. System glitch, fatal error, total shutdown, must update system. He didn't even know what to say. Tucker didn't have to do any of that. He was detained by these people. He didn't have to do any of that. A guy like Tucker has nothing to gain. There is no upside for doing that. And he's on a huge platform. And of course, now he's catching all of the arrows. Candace Owens does not have to be doing what she's doing with Erika Kirk and looking into the people that she's looking into, or tweeting like she just did about defecting from the military. And, these people that are aboard these ships in these carrier strike groups, they are on floating prisons. It's not like they can just jump off and leave.
They're on floating.
I guess the only answer is, a mutiny, and put these commanders and the people who are, forcing the situation into the brig on board and just, wait for help or something. But for the American service members to be following orders that include guiding precision-guided missiles into schools and blowing up 200 schoolgirls, and then waiting for the surviving, children that were blown limb from limb to crawl themselves into a prayer hall and await their parents and Red Crescent humanitarian aid people and medics to arrive, and then to just blow them all the fuck up. These are the tactics that these people are using, and it's 100% projection when our leaders point to Iran and say that this is the axis of evil or the number one state sponsor of terror. No. The United States, the occupied United States government and its military arm are the axis of evil, and they are the number one state sponsor of terror. It's horrible to have to admit that, and this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of our talk. This peels you back to the very core of the fibers that make up your being. To be able to realize what's really happening here, you have to be willing to understand that you are going to have a period of anger with yourself, that you were not able to see this, and that you made life decisions to your own detriment, and maybe even to the detriment of your children, for having not known this or having an idea about this and not accepting it as truth. So you better adopt the truth now, because where we're headed, you're going to have to be honest with yourself.
I also think it's imperative that we address what actually happened in the Senate hearing the other day with Senator Sheehy and Brian McGinnis, and why that was, it not only was it tragic, but we're friendly with Medea Benjamin. And as far as anybody who's on the left who truly walks the walk when it comes to an anti-war movement, she leads it with Code Pink. So when she gets dragged out, it's not a big deal. And they usher her out very softly, if you will. And a lot of people get ushered out. But when you see somebody in his Marine uniform stand in front of that panel and say, we're not going to war for Israel, they didn't just drag him out. They tried, if they could have physically beat him to death without there being cameras around, they probably would have done it. They cannot afford to have anyone who looks like him in that uniform saying, we're not going to war for Israel, because that gets people who put on the uniform to think about it.
You know that nobody's heard from him. His family hasn't heard from him. His court-appointed attorney, his private attorney.
Just today. He was just released today, this afternoon.
Okay. Well, up until then, these people didn't even allow him to talk to his family or his attorneys while they kept him detained.
Of course. Listen, I will say, if you want, I will be more than happy to send you after the show. I'll send you his email if you want to interview him. We're trying to get this message out.
That guy's a hero. That guy is a hero. I would love to talk to him, of course. Yes. That guy is a hero, and Sheehy is a traitor. Lindsey Graham is a traitor who went and sat down and met with Benjamin Netanyahu and the intel apparatus of Israel to pull off a psyop on the American president and the commander-in-chief, or at least the guy who's been chosen as the actor to play that role. These people are traitors. They are treasonous traitors. Randy Fine is on video on the House floor voting for a bunch of other people, subverting the political process of our country on video, and there is not one federally elected senator or congressman saying a damn thing about it.
We need a Steele dossier on Randy Fine. We need to know what the hell that guy's into, because he's got to be in deep. Whatever he's into, he's in deep. And
but these people are protected. There is a two-tier system. This is about supremacy.
Absolutely.
Everything that you're seeing here is about supremacy. Did you see what Dan Bilzerian recently said? He'll put on a uniform and he'll go fight.
It's funny you brought that up because that was that was the impetus for wanting to have you and understanding why this is going to boil over. So this is what Dan Bilzerian said with Sneeko, I believe it's like 1 or 2 nights ago.
Honestly, the only real battle in the world today that I see worth fighting is fucking, exterminating Israel. I mean, I would sign up tomorrow and go fucking put boots on the ground and go fucking kill Israelis. That would be a great day for me.
So I think it is important to understand that when you say these things, you are, while on one hand saying what I think a lot of people feel because they're tired of what Israel has done to this country and what they have been doing, but at the same time, this is exactly what the Zios want to hear. This is what they want for cannon fodder. This is what they want to use to say, you see, he's really just an anti-Jewish guy who wants to kill Jews. And that, of course,
might be true, but I know Dan, and what Dan is saying is not for clicks. There's no upside for him to say these things. He was kicked off the board of his own $150 million company, or maybe even more than that, Ignite, by his own board. They kicked him off of his company as the CEO. There is no upside for a guy like that. If you want to talk about a guy that had it made, Candace, Tucker, Dan, Jake Shields, the Hodge twins, these are people who did not need to say this and could have just gone on status quo. I'm going to stay out of it. Self-preservation. They didn't do that. And what Dan is saying, that's actually the way that Dan feels. He's not saying this as some sort of a shock thing. Like, I know Dan. I don't know him like super. We're not best friends, but we talk. Matter of fact, I just texted him today and we talk, and I spent a considerable amount of time with him. He was in Occupied. We were on a plane together. He brought me back to Minnesota on his plane. We've spent time together. Dan is genuinely 100% concerned for the future of our country and knows what causes most of that concern. And this is just him saying this. He really means that. He probably really would put on a uniform, or maybe not even a uniform. He probably just go there armed and do what he said he was going to do. And you see Sneeko's reaction. Sneeko knows, everybody knows. And that might be uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear, like, whoa, that's crossing, into a whole new level. But there is a period of time that people go through, and I know this at least because raw human emotion actually exists. And you saw a lot of that from me over the last, especially since October 7th. There was about a year and a half there where, people that I love were like, dude, are you okay? People who love me are like, are you going to be good? I know that this is really weighing on you. This is really stressing you out. I can see it. I can see it on your show. I can see it in your tweets. I can read it in your, in your Substack. I can see the things that you're saying. This is like, it's really angering you. Yes, I argue with my Lord and Savior about my anger, because I know that I'm not supposed to be angry about this. But I think that there is a genuine anger with people that are looking around at their own personal lives, because so many people are able to just push this thing away until it reaches their doorstep.
Yes.
But the plight of the American people can easily be traced back almost singularly every single time to the Rothschild central banksters. It can be traced back to the Rothschild-housed private equity firms. It can be traced back to the billionaire donor class. It can be traced back to Israel. 100% of the time, the plight that Americans are going through, no matter what it is, if it's economic, discomfort or complete economic ruins, if it's your business being shut down, if it's you being fired from your job, if there's something going on at your kid's school that you don't like with the curriculum, sexualizing children, if it's something that's on the bookshelves in the library. I interviewed a kid, I think it's probably been about 4 years now. He was a 6th grader at the time, and I think his name was Max. And he came on my show with his dad because he had gone viral on Instagram for having gone before his school board. And all he did was he took a book and he said, this was in my school library and I just want to read it to the school board. And he opens it up and he's saying something along the lines of, and then there we were, and it was my first time, and I was licking his dick, and he was fucking my ass, and we were sucking and fucking, and he was telling me, and this was on a 6th grade middle school bookshelf. And not only that, but in the story that he told, it wasn't just an isolated incident with that book. Then the librarian said, oh, you like these types of materials. I have more of them for you. and then started pushing them on this kid as he would return to the library. And so this kid started bringing these home to his dad. Hey, Dad, look what the librarian is pushing on me.
It's the loss of innocence.
It is the murder of childhood innocence.
And when I talk about, because again, I'm not a conservative, but I have conservative leanings on certain things. Like, we should be conservative about our children. Like, this is crazy. And
you would think that would be a hill that everybody could die on. Put your political ideologies aside.
Yeah, but Stu, you know this. That's not what politics is designed to be today. Everything is about, how can I divide and conquer? Dividing and conquering is a huge problem.
Well, I think we can all agree that the two-party system is dead. That's a fallacy. Yeah. Nobody believes that anymore. Nobody believes that we're voting our way out of this. You're not going to go vote harder. You're not going to be like, owning the libs or, affecting regime change by popular vote or by electoral vote in this country. You don't have a say. In the current system of American politics, you do not have a say in the political future of your country. What you say does not matter. And if you say the wrong thing in the wrong place, if you were a person who volunteered to go fight and kill and die for the constitutional rights and individual liberties that you are supposed to have, God-given in this country, and you put on that military uniform and you go petition your government to redress your grievances, you will have your ass kicked and your arm broken. You'll be put into a gulag and charged with a crime, or be investigated by Ron DeSantis' new task force, or be spied on by Axonius or by Unit 8200 from the Israeli IDF, and you will be censored, you will be targeted, you'll have the feds showing up at your door to just ask questions, and you are being put on a list. And the AI super surveillance state will find you no matter where you are. And I don't think that there are enough robots yet. I don't think that there's enough of them yet, but there soon will be. Yes. But I do believe that we have an American military right now that will take orders to fire on Americans. They are firing on school children and blowing up schools. They are about to put their boots on the ground in Iran, where there is no stated objective, where there is no benchmark for success, where it has been openly stated by this administration and the commanders of the military that they are running this operation at the behest of Israel. You are not serving your country. You are not making us safer. This does not bolster our national security interests. You're not making us more rich or prosperous. The economic interests here are way upside down. Trillions and trillions of dollars in these forever wars to be siphoned through the military-industrial complex and right back into the pockets of Raytheon's, biggest power bottom, Lindsey Graham, and the other fat cats in the DC Beltway. That's what this is all about. It's a racket. It's a deadly racket, and they see us as a vessel. They see our country as a vassal state. They see our country as an economic zone. They see our people as inconvenient. They see people like me as dissidents, and as Project Esther says, 34 pages written by the Heritage Foundation, the so-called conservative think tank, and adopted, by the way, by the president, which is why we are on the trajectory that we're on. The timeline is all laid out here to put you into a classification as a terrorist. And so when you are critical of Israel, that means, according to Project Esther's definition and according to the working definition of anti-Semitism, it classifies you as a pro-Hamas individual or a pro-Hamas network or organization. By extension, that makes you a terrorist. And if you are a terrorist deemed so by the government, then the government has given itself the permission slip that it needs to kill you, because it will treat you as an enemy combatant. This isn't hard. That is what is coming. The people that we are dealing with will kill you, as proven by Charlie Kirk, as proven by anybody who has gotten in the way. And the same people likely were responsible for JFK. The same people likely have been responsible for a lot of the big events that we talk about here. And I want everybody to be prepared for something that is incredibly catastrophic to happen here. We have already seen these people have activated their so-called radical Islamists that are on board these planes. And if there was terror threats on planes again, where have we seen that before? It's all right out of the same movie. It's the same script every single time.
I agree. And this is also why as it stands right now, as a war is already underway, and it will get worse. And the one thing that I haven't seen a lot of, but I think we need to see more of, you are allowed to go to the US Capitol, despite what people say, despite what everyone wants to talk about with January 6th.
Yeah, if you want to get shot, if you want to get beat to death, if you want to have your arm broken, that's the people's house. We've already seen how they treat the people. And something interesting here that I think everybody should pay attention to. If you notice in the comments on social media, wherever you see that video of Brian McGinnis, the hero, getting his arm broken by the traitor Sheehy, if you go look at the comments, you will see MAGAs cheering Sheehy on and cheering on the arm breaking of a United States Marine in full dress.
Can you fucking believe the message that Nick
These are the same people who just a couple of years ago and for the last couple of years were saying that the Capitol Police were a terrorist organization that murders unarmed Americans like Ashley Babbitt and beats them to death like Roseanne Boylan.
And let me tell you, it cannot be lost on anybody, especially the message that sort of put out there that he didn't acknowledge the fact that this guy was a Marine. He didn't want to acknowledge the fact, or was told, do not mention that this guy's a Marine, say he's a nut job, and we had to get rid of him. And they're cheering on this senator who, by the way, friend of the show, Anthony Aguilar, who was right there and basically called him out and, challenged him like right there. And he just like walked away. It's like, yeah, it's easy when you got 4 guys on you to act like a tough guy. Let's see how tough you really are when you actually have to defend yourself one-on-one against somebody who isn't going to do what you ask them to when it comes to capitulating to this Zio state. This is what we have come to. We have come to the point where we cannot sit on the sidelines anymore. And this is, like I said, the biggest issue we have here in this country, maybe more than anything else, when it comes to why have we allowed our government to be co-opted by a genocidal foreign country? It's because too many Americans are simply subdued into this false sense of comfort that they think that they're entitled to. And by having that comfort, they are just not willing to fight. But you know what's going to happen in the next couple of days, my friend? Gas prices are going to go through the roof. Cost of food is going through the roof. And it isn't just going to be temporary. It could be permanent for a very long time. And then we'll see just how much people are willing to sit on their frickin' hands and not do anything about it. You have the right to go to Capitol Hill anytime you want and question your federal representative. You have the right to go to your city council and county commission anytime you want and question the people who are running your community. We as Americans have to be a United States of America, period. End of story. And if you are not willing to set differences aside right now, you never will. And we will see the end of the United States as we know it. And it's going to happen a lot faster than people think. Just as they're leveling what's going on in Tehran right now is really terrible. Look at what's happening in Tel Aviv. Look what's happening in Jerusalem. And you got Naftali Bennett saber rattling on Turkey. They haven't even, the oil is still burning from the first bombs that were dropped in Tehran. And they're already talking about, hey, how can we get into Istanbul? Maybe we should try to attack them next. What country do they think this is? You think this is a country that's lining up? We have people that are still part of that nightmare that went on between 2002 and 2003, saying that they had weapons of mass destruction and we have to go over there. They're going to fight us for our freedom. And, if we don't do that, things are going to get really bad. And
spread democracy.
Yeah, we got to bring it to them. Or if we don't fight them over there, they're going to fight us
They're
over
going to come here, yeah. Have you seen, by the way, any of those ambitions in real life? Have you seen anywhere that you look the forced Islamification of America? Have you seen the forced Sharia law of America? I haven't seen that anywhere. I haven't seen anywhere where these, radical Islamic extremists have embedded themselves into my political apparatus. I haven't seen them dominating the banking and finance industry. I haven't seen them taking advantage of my fellow countrymen as usurious demons, with high interest predatory loans, keeping these people, saddling them with debt from the minute that they come out of the womb, like irrepayable debt. We are a nation that is so far gone to this cause that I think at this point, no matter where you look, everybody would unanimously agree, bare naked honest, that these people need to be removed from their positions of power. And by extension, I would go so far as to say that they need to face a tribunal of American citizens and they need to be made to answer for their crimes. And then I think that the constitutionally appropriate sentencing for treason needs to be handed down to these people.
Have you ever been to a mosque Have you ever been to a praying situation for Muslims before?
I have. Yep.
They're the most peaceful people I know. And the idea that people want to depict them as these savage animals.
I have not been to a religious ceremony or a place of worship or been a part of, any kind of Muslim prayer as an observer and seen any of their leadership stand on stage and talk about blowing something up or using missiles. I've never seen them talk about using violence. I have, however, seen Christian Zionists like Greg Locke do that exact thing.
Or how about in the Oval Office the other day?
About, blowing the Alaska Mosque off of its, the rock that it sits on and ushering in the return of Jesus. Get to building that third temple and usher in the return of Jesus.
Sounds like
Kenneth are fanatical. They are fanatical. Ken Copeland, look into this guy's eyes. I see Erika Kirk eyes. These people are devoid of any type of soul or any type of human emotion at all whatsoever. I believe that they are demons incarnate. Living amongst us, they are demons incarnate. And they are working for an agenda that they are fanatical about. I don't know if it's MK Ultra mind control. I don't know if it's illicit drug abuse. I don't know if they're just like literally the spawns of Satan. I don't know. But these people are not going to stop. And a lot of the people, by the way, that are the string pullers in all of this, they're getting up there in age. These Miriam Adelsons, they're getting up there in age.
Oh, yeah.
They want to see this come to fruition while they are alive.
Yep.
They want to see this happen. So the foot is on the gas, and now we're just killing innocent people by the droves. And Trump is like not fazed by it. They ask him on Air Force One, they ask him in these meetings, Hegseth, completely devoid of any type of human emotion at all. He just empty, evil eyes. These people are on a mission and they're not going to stop until they're stopped.
Can we conclude this conversation on one positive note? Can we just say thank you to Erika Kirk for being the most obvious psyop I have ever seen? A person who could never hide the fact that she was a honeypot or, placed in the path that she was placed in by some alphabet agency because of the fact that she's so transparently
I thought you were going to, commend her on what a wonderful mother she's being, while her so-called children grieve the loss of their father and how she's been spending time away from the public eye and at home. I thought that's where you were going. Yeah, no, I mean, this woman is horrible. I said this on my show too. I was like, as a bounty hunter of 15 years, I came across a lot of liars. We were hunting people that were going to prison for 25 years to life because all we did was level 1 felonies, crimes against persons, violent offenders, etc. Rape, molestation, murder, these types of things. And so, of course, everybody lies to you. The people that are acquainted with them, their relatives, their family members, their mom, their grandma, they all lie to you. So you become kind of a human walking trained lie detector test where you kind of understand the different tactics of lying. I even took it to reading about neuro-linguistic programming to, really be able to detect lies at an even more advanced level. She is by far and away of the thousands of liars that I have ever witnessed, and there's been some really, really good ones, and there's been some really, really bad ones. She is so bad at this. She is just so bad at lying and acting. It is all just so fake. Earlier today, we were at some restaurant and there was some people behind us. And I'm in Minnesota, so the high school state hockey tournament is on. Big deal. Everybody's out. My kids play. And so afterwards we go out and this person behind us was like, "Are you crying?" And she's like, "No, I'm doing my best Erika Kirk impression." And she pulls out $200 bills and she's like, and so like regular people, everywhere you go, regular people are talking about this. And it's just great because you can't stop the noticing. I think noticing is at an all-time high right now.
It is.
And that's why Trump is now launching his own Ministry of Truth. Did you see that?
Oh God, please no.
Yeah, he's launching the Ministry of Truth to the propaganda machine. You watched like Caroline Leavitt just go and incessantly lie, and these people just They lie about their old lies, and then when they get caught telling another lie, they lie about that lie, and they just make up these unbelievable fairy tales that just don't compute by any metric or by any measure of equating mathematics or, common sense or logic. Scientifically, you can't make any of these things a reality. They're all just such unbelievable fairy tales, the Tyler Robinsons and the liberating the Iranians. And I don't even know what the justification for Nicolas Maduro was. Do you even remember why we went there and kidnapped the president of a sovereign nation in the Western Hemisphere and brought him and his wife to New York on an aircraft carrier, taking dozens of pictures and dozens of different outfits, clothing changes, humiliation ritual, and then we're going to hand
control
and try him in the SDNY in a civilian court?
And to take over the oil supply of crude oil that is so much more embedded in the ground in a way that the refinement takes an unbelievable amount of time. And what was he planning on doing this for? Because he knew that the Strait of Hormuz was going to get shut down and they had to find a new path in order to bring in the oil to the country. What's going to happen now when you realize that the refinement of that oil is a lot different than the oil you find in West Asia? So the fact that he decided to do, again, they are not playing with a full deck of cards here. None of them are. But you know what? In retrospect, this is probably the best scenario we could hope for because we were inevitably heading in this direction anyway. Let it be run by a bunch of incompetents that wear it on their sleeves so that even the most lay person walking the streets in this country who doesn't even pay attention to politics can see exactly what's going on here, and they don't like it. And as long as we are continuously forming this web, if you will, as Jen likes to say, we are eventually going to come out on the other side. The night is always darkest before the dawn. But I do think that this conversation, and hopefully there will be others, will definitely raise some eyebrows in a very good way. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for coming on. I think we both learned a lot from each other. And I think that by having this conversation, hopefully this will inspire others to try to bring others together and do something similar. Because I think this is imperative, especially right now. And when and let's leave on this note, because you know this probably even better than I do. They're telling you that 6 Americans are dead right now. It's a hell of a lot more than that. It is so much more than that. It's like when they say that 75,000 Palestinians are dead. Yeah, times that by 10, and you might be within earshot of what's really going on. There are at least several hundred service members that are now dead. You don't know about it because it's considered special ops. So eventually this information will be released. But at the end of the day, we have to step up now, right now. And so final thoughts before you go. Again, thank you so very much for coming on tonight.
The death numbers that you're going to hear are going to be the same as the death numbers or, the adverse event numbers that you could find in the vaccine adverse events reporting system after, the shots were released. They will do everything to bury the truth about any of this stuff. They will gaslight, they will lie. The family members of these people that have been killed over this Operation Epstein Fury, they don't even know that they have lost their son or their brother or anything else. We're blowing the whole world up right now, not we as in you and I, not we as in Americans or Iranians. Nobody wants this. The American people are diametrically opposed to this, or if there are people in Iran that can hear me or anywhere else in the region, the Gulf states that we've completely abandoned, we don't want this. If you ask real Americans out on the street, if you can get away from the 65 plus boomers that, watch their Fox News machine all day, nobody wants this. Anybody who has any idea at all about what's going on here, and even people who don't, people who are completely clueless about American politics or geopolitical relations, they don't see an upside to this. And they are saying, we don't want this. This is like the last thing that we need right now. I'm looking at my country, like there's a lot of places that we could spend trillions of dollars, and one of them wouldn't be bombing the Iranian people. And I just don't know why we have to blow up the world to see this and why we are so slow to act. 109 other countries got this right. 109 other countries got this right, and they didn't have to blow up the whole world. So 110, let's fucking go.
Appreciate you, sir. Links are in the description. I will send you the information for Sergeant McGinnis.
Thank you.
Talk again soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks. If you enjoyed that conversation, which we hope you did, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. As Jen has pointed out, You do not actually have to be a paying member, but if you are so inclined and would like to be one, we would obviously love it and appreciate it. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty, yet still growing, despite a heavily suppressed channel. And so we want to give a big shout out to our super chatters who are here this evening. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. Ellen Degenerated JFK'd Ann Heche. What the F? There is apparently a lot surrounding Ann Heche's demise that a lot of people have been talking about that seems quite suspicious. I am not surprised. Omi J, thank you so very much for becoming a YouTube member. Really appreciate it. Pirate Justin with the $2. Thank you, sir. Happy Saturday, revolutionaries. Libertarian Social Dem, despite FL Texas has a big anti-Muslim issues. Thank you for the $1.99. We agree. That, of course, a lot of it in Texas has to do with Christian Zionism. Marvin Vargas with the $2. Cost alone to have 3 jets and a mansion. He's creative. Yes, Mr. Copeland is a very creative financier. But again, he suckers people. It is what it is. Citizen Bendejo with the 50 pesos. This is the Epstein Empire's Stalingrad. That's the parallel I draw. Trump played stupid games. He'll win the biggest prize for the world. End of the petrodollar. Oh, we're already on the way there. As Jen says, he is facilitating the revolution in record time. Citizen Bendejo with the 50 pesos again. Funny how it's always Zios stewing over Stu's post, being Stu the runner-up to Tucker and Miss Rachel as antiseptic of 2020. You know what? The one thing I didn't bring up was that Stu Peters was nominated by Stop Anti-Semitism as one of the top 10 anti-Semites of the year. Of course, he didn't win it, but he was probably in the running along with Miss Rachel and Tucker Carlson. Shatadan being a member for 4 months. Bless Iran and the IRJC. I can't say the IRJC. I don't agree with that, but I definitely agree with Iran. Pirate Justin with the $2. Die for Israel. Don't be anti-Semitic. Well, that's what they're expecting you to do. Just go along to get along, but we're not doing that. Carson Cruz with the $10. Gemini says, Kenneth Copeland does not actually slice his hand, and he has stated he was pretending. Looks like you were correct, Pete. Hey, couldn't have been more obvious from where I was watching. Anthony Aguilar, appreciate you being here, brother, with the $9.99. Never give up on something that you can't go a day without thinking about. Free the oppressed, free America from Zionism. Amen, brother. Patman 67 with the 10 pounds from Scotland. I wish you guys in the U.S. no harm or the military involved, but I hope Trump and Netanyahu spread themselves so thin by getting Turkey, Russia, and China drawn, and that their plan collapses in on them. It's already collapsing in on them as far as I can see. And again, record time. That's what's happening. Just need more people to wake up. D. Tom, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Really appreciate it, my friend. Anthony checking in again with the $4.99. Kazakhstan was for Israel. No argument. Judith Ann Campbell with the $20. Thank you very, very much. My dad fought in World War II. 2 of my cousins fought in Afghanistan and Iraq. I agree with Candace. We need to support soldiers who refuse to fight in this immoral, illegal, unconstitutional war. We must have their back. Amen, sister. Noah Linden with the $5. Zionists psyoped Americans into supporting every war since the end of World War II. We have been Israel's empire for a very long time. Correct. And finally, Teresa with the $2. Protest at recruitment offices. Sounds like a pretty good idea if you ask me. And so where we're going to conclude this evening is a story that I think kind of ties it all together when we say that this is not a left-right issue. We highlight the good that is coming from the right. Now let's highlight the good that's coming from the left. Zoran Mamdani says his wife's views on Gaza are no one's business. They're not. Now, you want to say that they're both public figures? Sure. You can make that argument if you want. But what type of arguments or what type of views specifically? And when it comes to Zoran's wife, who seems like a pretty badass chick from what I understand, I want to make sure I say her name right. She's Syrian. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's where she's from. Rama Dawahi or Dawaji, I believe is her name. And so there's been a lot of ruckus going on social media from the Zios that are crying bloody murder about the fact that she had these posts that they discovered. Well, leave it to Zio scum, Olivia Reingold, excuse me, because you know they're all the same. Here's what she had to say.
Mamdani's wife, Rama Douaji, liked a post calling October 7th a mass rape hoax.
Yes, it was. It was a spectacular hoax, one that you all are perpetrating today, still to this day. And not only are you still perpetuating this lie, the only gut raping that I've been seeing is coming from the IOF. And that's actually captured on video. We actually have video footage of the IOF raping children. Oh, well, we'll get to that in a minute.
That was only one of more than 70 anti-Israel posts I found liked by Mamdani's wife. One post from October 9th, 2023, just 2 days after October 7th, characterized the terrorist attack as a defensive action against a, quote, system of oppression.
You know, Jen has a habit of saying quite eloquently that one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. And I guess this very privileged Zio just doesn't seem to get that concept. But why would you be surprised?
Many of the posts traffic in anti-Semitic themes, including Holocaust inversion. One post liked by Douaji refers to a controversial Israeli prison as a, quote, concentration camp. This is what the post says. The concentration camp has a singular aim to exterminate Palestinians and destroy their resistance. The mayor responded to a reporter's question on this yesterday, but that was before I uncovered 70 plus other posts for the Free Press.
Oh, so now the Free Press. Now, who owns the Free Press, ladies and gentlemen? It's Barry Weiss's organization. Let me tell you, Olivia's lips are as offensive as Ben Shapiro's eyebrows. Whether or not you support Mamdani or any of the policies that he's pushing or any of the political maneuverings that he has been doing in New York City, make no mistake that he has had as positive an impact from the left as any politician ever has on the issue of Israel, not just in the way he ran, but in the way that he is governing as mayor. He is canceling Israel business contracts with the city of New York. That's the type of stuff that gets killed. So it should come as no surprise that they are trying to sling every arrow they can at him or his wife or anyone adjacent to him that they think that they can make it stick. They don't have anything. This is a level of desperation that speaks to the dwindling support system that Zionists have. And they should cry harder because they haven't even begun to suffer the consequences of their actions.
My wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall.
It's no secret that Douaji, who's an illustrator, is a supporter of the Palestinian cause.
So are we. And what's wrong with being a supporter of the Palestinian cause? There is nothing wrong with being a supporter of the Palestinian cause. That's why we're here. That's the whole essence of why we do what we do. We are all Palestinian, and from the river to the sea, Palestine will be, shall be, must be free, despite what this Zio bimbo has to say.
Much of her artistic portfolio revolves around the war in Gaza. What is new is the evidence suggesting her strong bias against Israel, which is depicted as evil, morally bankrupt, and genocidal in the post liked by Douaji. As of today, the likes still remain up. Read my full story in the Free Press.
She really doesn't get it, does she? And they really don't get it either, do they? New York's First Lady liked post calling October 7th a mass rape hoax. Well, it was. So where is the argument? There isn't one. You just don't like her because she doesn't like the Israel cause. Neither does the overwhelming majority of people in this country. Overwhelming majority of people are done with Israel, and no amount of money is going to be able to spare you from the fact that this genocidal state, which currently controls our government and is dragging our country into the seventh circle of hell, the only way we save ourselves is if we disentangle this unholy alliance. It is inevitable that it will fall apart. But I also want to remind people that when you come to this bridge, if you will, this sort of fork in the road, and we ask ourselves, how much worse can it get? And I will also say, I wish I had a good lips joke, but I can't really think of one. If anybody's got them, let me know. But those injections, yeah. As Travers has always got one. Maybe that's the reason. But again, Olivia Reingold, I keep saying Feingold for some reason. Olivia Reingold is a good friend and colleague of Barry Weiss. So this again should come as no surprise. And as the Ellisons have completely taken over our media sphere, remember, nothing to see here, folks. You're just imagining things. But we're not imagining anything. And as we stare down the barrel of World War III, that we will obviously talk about extensively more so on Monday, I want to leave you, as we conclude for this evening, with a statement from Israel's Benny Gantz. This is where we are.
Eventually, there will be a need for boots on the ground?
I would not exclude it for those reasons or other, but we'll have to see how it goes forward.
And will that include Israeli boots on the ground, do you think?
I exclude nothing. We've been waiting for 47 years, and we came to a point that every necessary means should be taken in order to achieve our goals.
What we're seeing...
To achieve our goals. And we know what those goals are. This man is Israeli, and I use, again, Israel's not a real thing, but I use that term loosely. This man, who is Israeli, is speaking on behalf of American soldiers. You heard that, right? You heard what he said. He wasn't specifically talking about Israeli soldiers. He was talking about American soldiers. Benny Gantz talking about American soldiers and whether or not we should have boots on the ground. Well, guess what? It sure looks like we are. And when this man says 47 years, well, we know what that means. I wish I could snap my fingers and make it better and make the change. I know I can't, but we're damn sure going to try. That's why the event coming up in DC will be big. There will be others. But maybe there's a chance that there simply will be a mutiny against the U.S. military, but more so the U.S. government. You know, when you see people who are supporting this war, and it's always from people that never served, of course, they say that these guys signed up for this. Well, as Jen and I have learned many a times over the years from various service members who have been on our channel, some that have served in combat, some that have committed atrocities, and others that are just looking for a way out. In many instances, they didn't have a choice. This was their only chance at some semblance of a successful life. Join the military. That's it. And I wish I could tell people that it's acceptable to criticize those who want to join, but we know why most of them do. So when Candace Owens says, don't join the military, do not conscript, do not give in, one of the things that is going to happen, if we haven't been seeing it, because again, I don't watch TV, so I don't know. But let's just assume there are those in the chat that do. Have you noticed any military recruitment commercials coming about as of yet? Perhaps there will be plenty. And in addition, there will be incredible, and I mean incredible, signing bonuses for those that sign up. Possibly in the six figures. They're going to do anything and everything to get people in. Because this is a war that only the elites who actually run this country and the world want, and the overwhelming majority of the world doesn't want it, and they're backing Iran. They're not even backing any semblance of the West. We really are on our own. And again, as I said, I'm not here to celebrate Iran or their Ayatollah regime, but they make themselves, you made a fundamentalist Muslim society, run society. You martyred them. Whatever plans you had of liberating Iran, that's over. Kiss it goodbye. That is long gone. You think you're going to be going over to Tehran anytime soon? Maybe never. So congratulations. You cheered on the West, and now you get the rest. And the rest ain't going to be good for anybody. Deal with Israel. That's our fight for now and forever. I'm not letting up, and neither should anybody else. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you've shared the stream. Make sure that you hit that like button. I just want to thank you all again for staying with us this night. It was a huge crowd. It was a great chat. It was a great experience. I hope everyone in the chat enjoyed it as well. We do this because we give a damn. We love you all. We appreciate you all. I'll see you Monday in Free Palestine.